Hello everyone, welcome to the Moonello Show. My name is Matt.
I'm Jason.
And today we're going to discuss, is your business ready or your company ready to either embark on a software development project or hire a software development company to help you with your project?
Yeah, if the answer to that second part of the question is Moonello, then the answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little joke for you guys.
Yeah, you must really like that company.
Yeah, probably. I get money from that company, so.
So we've narrowed it down to 7 things. So we're going to discuss those 7 things today. So stick around if you want to hear what all 7 things are. But the first thing is, does your business or company have a clear goal in mind for what you want your software to accomplish?
Yeah, that's before we kind of get into our notes. Like, can you imagine, like, just sitting around with your friends or with your company or something to be like, we should have an app, and that's where you start. It's not like,
Bam.
What's the app about? It's not like I have a business need. I have like these are the reasons that I would like to have an app. It's just like, we should have an app because an app is cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the best way to start.
Apps are cool, but there are reasons why they're cool.
Right.
And there's reasons why people stick around and use them.
And you should have those reasons in your head before you just embark on the let's get an app thing.
Yep. So we break down the clear goal. So the first item is the clear goal. So we break it down into several chunks, right? And it's really all about the discovery phase, which is a lot about what we talk about because it is the most important thing. So there's a lot of things inside discovery and setting that clear defined goal that you really want to nail down, like objective clarity, right? Do you really understand what this app is supposed to accomplish? What challenge should it overcome? What problem should it solve? What process should it overcome, right?
Right.
We also talk about success matrix, right? So metrics. So what are some of the things you're going to measure about the app? What are some of the things you're going to measure about how well it's doing? What KPIs you're going to have involved?
How do you define success in
Right.
that? Like, how do you define that the app, when the condition is met, that the app is successful? Like, has the app done its job?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's a goal, it's a target to go toward.
Yep. User experience is another one. We talk a lot about user experience. It's the emotion that people get while they're using it. Is it easy? Is it difficult? Is it fun? Is it hard? It's all about the experience people get as they're using your app. And then project scope. So clearly defining the features and the functionalities of what everything is supposed to do inside of it. So we talk about like gamifying apps and implementing retention into those apps. That goes a long way inside defining the project scope.
Yeah.
And then we talk about budgeting. So budgeting is a big deal when it comes to deciding whether or not you're ready to go with an app, depending on the direction your app is going to go, how you're going to build it, how big it's going to be, what the project scope is.
That's kind of tough because how do you like? Obviously, you can think about how much money you're willing to put into it, but is that always going to align with how much it actually costs to make a project? And I guess that's maybe a go no go switch, right? Is if the amount of money that you can contribute doesn't match the amount of money it's going to cost, then I guess you just don't have an app anymore.
Yep.
It kind of crashes the idea. So that's a weird balancing act.
But it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing.
Yeah. Because then you don't get into a situation where like you want this thing, you haven't budgeted for it, and suddenly you just don't have the money to complete the project or finish it, or whatever app company you go with gives you an idea of something that's just way beyond what you were considering doing, and then you're really disappointed.
Right. Yeah. And the next section we'll get into a little bit more about budgeting.
Yeah.
Risk management. So how are you going to address or outline any type of risks that are involved, especially if you're hanging on to people's PII data? How are you handling that data? What are you doing to make sure it's secure? What are you doing to make sure that people can get after it?
Yeah.
The right people can get after their data and, plunge it from the system if they want to.
And if you're not doing that, like, do you have enough money to pay for really, really good lawyers? So I guess if your lawyer budget is just gigantic, then you could just
then
do
you're good.
You want. Yeah.
Right. Integrations, right? So is your app going to connect to any type of third-party app? If you've got some type of e-commerce related app, is it going to connect to Stripe? Is it going to connect to Bolt? Is it going to do any type of reach for third-party, just general metadata, right? So any type of integrations, you certainly don't want to like reinvent the wheel,
Right.
right?
This also goes into budgeting a little bit too, because A, like, are there costs for those integrations? B, is it likely to have a cost in the future where it might be free now?
Yep.
There's a trend going around, especially with social media platforms, of starting to charge a significant amount of money for
Yeah.
access to their APIs. So if you plan on and budget for an API access for one thing to have a social component, and then 2 months later suddenly they're charging 2 million a year to access their API, that all the money and time you've spent putting into that app kind of crashes. So a
Yep.
lot of research should probably
Right.
be done into your API integrations.
Yep. Yep. And
What about
then,
you? Reddit,
yeah, Reddit and Twitter, right?
Twitter started it. Yeah,
Twitter, always starting it.
it's been a while since I complained about Twitter on an episode.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Change management. How are you going to handle change management that happens within the project? People come and go. Different integrations come into play. Different features, right? You might interview some of your target market, like we talked about before. Your addressable market. You might do a focus group interview, and you might start to build your app, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, you go to interview that same group, and their wants and needs maybe change, right? And how are
Right.
you going to handle the changes that happen? And then the last piece related to defining a clear goal is really long-term vision. I mean, it is sheerly nowhere even half the battle to get an app up, built, and launched, let alone what are we going to do with this thing after it's live? How's it going to
Yeah.
be optimized? How it's going to be maintained? How are you going to support it staying live?
It, and kind of along, like, not a flip side of the coin, but a different aspect of that is, like, does the long-term vision of your company need
Mm,
that mobile app to happen? Is your company going to shift or change or do something different with its offerings and services and products that makes
hmm
the app that you're building today obsolete, no longer needed,
Right,
or need to be completely changed? Because then it's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new project that you have to spin up
right,
and change.
right. So I have a long-term vision. Just don't think about fixing this process and launching this app. Think about what it could grow into, what other processes it could also take on,
Mm-hmm.
right? But just don't, make sure you've got, the 5-year plan, 10-year plan for what this app's going to be. So, point number 2 in our discussion here is budget.
Money's hard.
Does your business or company have a budget? And it doesn't have to be an exorbitant large budget at all either. There's bootstrap ways and boilerplate ways and minimum viable product ways to
Yeah.
get an app out there. Does require a lift to get it up and out there, and there are situations, I know, even within Moonello, right? We work with budgets and payments and ways to get software out there and published. So there's this myth around, oh, it costs $84 million to build apps, and it's like, no, it's not. But it's important that you actually have a budget, that you've actually thought about time and materials, that it takes time, takes people's time to build things. Or if you're going more of a low code route, there's a monthly fee with using a low code type platform,
Right.
and you just have to think about a budget. Rather how low it is or how high it is, it's important to think about a budget. And when we think about it, it's really how much can you allocate, right? What's your budget allocation when it comes to defining a budget? And what does the cost breakdown look like? Like, what is if you understand the process of, almost discovery and design and development and launch and server costs, like start to bucket and, kind of put dollars into, I've got this
Mm-hmm.
overall budget, but what can I spend during discovery? What can I spend on design? What can I spend during, and then start to kind of piece things through. Not that it's going to actually like end up that way, but at least you put thought into, okay, this is what I'm comfortable spending in these areas,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't necessarily have to go like A, B, C, D, E, which that is the process, but you can go A and B and then stop for a while and C, right? And maybe C, D, and E come from a different investment or another project that's landed or some other budget within the company. Maybe
Yeah.
A and B get covered from some type of research and development budget, and then the rest gets, there's ways to.
That makes sense. Just to make sure, like, exactly when the money is coming in from other sources that can cover different parts of it at
Right.
different times.
Right.
Yeah.
And then to think
It's
about,
tough.
right, we bring this up in our initial analysis too with our client partners, is the return on investment, right? The expectation is that this thing's either going to make our company more efficient, or it's going to sell more goods and services,
Mm-hmm.
or you name it. So we always like to tie in, well, what is the operational benefit of this, and how does it financially or economically impact the company in a positive way,
Yeah.
compared to what's the budget or what's the investment to get this thing up off the ground.
Is it going to make a profit, or is it going to make other things that you're doing cheaper,
Yep.
or bring in more customers? Like, I guess that's what it comes down to at the end of the day is the thing that you're doing going to increase the amount of money that you're making?
Right.
It's kind of the whole point.
Right. Or make people's lives better, or you're transforming something, or
No, nobody wants to do any altruistic stuff. Like, everybody just wants to make money.
straight
Right?
dollars.
Yeah, it's just all about dollars. That's
Right.
America.
We always preach contingency funds. There's always things that come up during the project that either you haven't thought of, your team hasn't thought of, or we haven't quite thought of yet. And we always bring these things up in the very beginning, but there's always, we're 6 months in, we're on budget, we're doing great, and then all of a sudden, maybe you and your team have interviewed, right? I mentioned earlier the focus group, and they say, oh, features A, B, and C sound like they need to be a little bit more robust than we initially thought that they need to be, right? So that change, maybe that's part of the change management, but having that buffer in your budget, or that contingency for if things go, or all of a sudden your competitive advantage into the market needs to happen much, much, much sooner, right? And the team needs to be
So you need to
scaled.
expedite the release of the project. Imagine being 90% through your project, and then just like your competitor just came out with the same exact thing a month before you did. So not only do you have to like hurry to push something out, but maybe you want to think about changing what you're doing so you have a difference in your product than in their product, and all of that costs money,
right?
And that's where that extra like contingency fund that you were talking about comes into play.
Yep.
Or maybe you just forgot to tell your the development team about the awesome, cool thing that you really wanted in the app.
Yeah.
And then you're at the very end of it, and you're like, oh yeah, I have to have this feature too. That's budgeted, right? That was in the plan.
Yeah.
Wasn't in the plan.
Another thing is resource costs, right? So really understanding, like, we have a good solid understanding from our side, but from the client side, right? There are people within the company or the business who get involved at different stages of the software build, right? You want to make sure you're allocating enough budget for their time that's going to be spent or billed to this project on your side. So different people come and go. You brought up lawyers earlier. Lawyers come in and review things and assess patents, and sometimes they'll even look over clickable prototypes for legality reasons. Are we claiming anything within the software that we have to have footnotes for?
Right.
So opportunity costs too, right? Like, not only are there contingency costs we need to think about, what opportunity costs that coincide with opportunity, or the return on investment, right? What other opportunity costs could be nailed down with this new software?
Yeah, and that's also going back to resource costs too. Like, you were putting money into your staff and time for your staff into that. What other things could they be doing? And is the other thing that they could be doing have a better return on investment than this app project that you want to go for? And that's the whole opportunity cost thing. Is it's the cost of doing something else, is it greater than the cost of doing the thing that you're going to be doing right now, or the gain from that?
Right. And then, not to leave off, the financial health, as it's tied kind of all the way back to, the company itself, like investing in this software project, like just making sure like it doesn't, overextend the company, that the company can remain in good financial health, now and into the future. And then also making sure that you're doing budgetary reviews even during the project. If you were to, embark on this, make sure you're not leaving off the fact of, oh, we've got this investment we made, a year ago or 6 months ago, and we're going into the new year or the new quarter or whatever, and we still have, payments to be made, or we still have invoices that need to be paid as you move forward. So that really,
just don't forget to pay your software development company.
yeah,
or
or
production stops.
your server
Yeah.
costs, because all of a sudden those things are they get turned off.
Or review them too. Like there's infamous horror stories about AWS projects that, just all of a sudden tens of thousands of dollars being chalked up because of
Running
operating costs,
processes,
running
yeah,
processes
yeah,
and stuff that you didn't realize. Like if you're not paying attention to, and that's kind of more on the maintenance side of things, but also certainly just being aware of what's being charged,
yeah,
or
right,
what's being expected of those services that you're paying for.
right, right. So point number 3 are or is or does, whichever word we want to slog in there, have to do with resources, right? So resources on the client partner side, on your side, developing the requirements, working with us on our side, right? Just making sure we have all the right resources, and make sure that you're properly staffed to actually embark on a software project.
Right. And I think we've talked about this in previous episodes, but it's, when you start a software project, it's not just that you go out and you hire a software development team to take care of all the work. Like your company needs to be involved in very specific parts of it, like very much during discovery, but there's also development phases. You need to test things, make sure it's working the way that you want it to, so that you don't get to the very end and you are given a product by the software company and it's nothing like what you had originally scoped or planned out. Like there's resources for that. You need to have people testing those things. You need to have people interacting, going to those meetings and reporting on those things internally. So
Yep.
make sure you have that planned for.
Yep. Time allocation, right? Or is your team allocated? Do they have bandwidth, or are they 40 to 50 hours a week tied to their roles and responsibilities? Do they even have the time to even squeeze in reviews or showing up to a Scrum meeting on Wednesdays at 11 a.m., right? Like, can they mentally handle that? Are they ready for it, right? Like, certainly want to be fair to your...
Even for you as a the product owner, the product manager, not product manager, but the primary stakeholder. Like, do you have the time to put in 2 to 5 hours into your schedule to dedicate to this per week?
Right.
Because without that input, like your project could go all over the place and you wouldn't know about it.
Right. Training needs. Typically during our projects, if we talk about Moonello, we typically will put together training material, videos, how-tos, guides. Sometimes client partners on their side will have their own training materials that they put on to coincide with their branding and their employee onboarding and their human resources requirements. And then technical resources, right? Because it will be a technical project, right? Do you have the technical resources on your team to chime in, or to approve, or to suggest, or to brainstorm along with us, or whoever you decide to work with? It's important.
Yeah, I kind of think back to I don't know, there are situations where IP CNAME stuff come into play, and do you have the people on your team that can understand those things, know how to get the domain that you're looking for if you have a web app or something like that?
Or do they even have access to those systems?
So did you hire somebody 5 years ago to set that stuff up, and it's set up and you haven't had to worry about it, and now a developer comes along to do something for your site, upgrade it, redo it, whatever? Like, they have to have access to those things, and they don't natively they aren't just able to have access to that. So plan for that too. Like, make sure that you've got that information up front before you start that whole conversation.
Project management, right? Like we say, like there's resource allocation that needs to be involved. There's a project that needs to be, right? We typically run the projects from our side, but sometimes there's internal projects that get spun up, small little internal projects that get spun up within a company or a business as they're moving right along developing the software. So is your team capable of running project management, right? Tools, the processes, the systems, ideally probably because you're delivering a product or service on your end to your client. So
Right. It's
yeah,
like the app is what's facilitating the actual new thing that
yep,
you're giving to your client. So it's like there's this whole process and planning and training thing that has to go on within your side that's completely separate, but like at the same time as
yep,
the software project. So like
yep,
in those cases, you'd probably be managing that project as
yep,
one whole instead of two like smaller projects separate of each other.
yep. Vendor support's another big one, right? And that comes along with, if you're not going to build this internally, you're going to go find a third-party company like Moonello to build this. What's their reliability? What are their capabilities? What have other people said about the company? What other projects have they done that's kind of similar to what you're looking to build? And this kind of coincides with the whole, integrations, right? If you're looking to attach your app to a third party like Stripe or um, some other open API to get
Mm-hmm.
some content and data. Have you vetted them? What's their reliability and such?
Are they going to help you when you have a problem down
Yeah,
the line? Because yikes,
right,
that can get really sticky.
right. Yeah. So then moving on from point 3, which is about resources, onto point 4, which is about, does your company culture support change and innovation? Right? Like,
This is not a very often thought of
no,
thing, I'd imagine.
no. I mean, imagine you're thinking of, hey, I'm gonna build this software. I'm gonna have this company come in and help us build the software because our processes of getting all of our work done is really antiquated and it's slow. And I've realized that there's a lot of waste in our value stream, right? So I'm going to bring this company in and we're going to do that. And all of a sudden, your top tier or your high level management is absolutely like, no, we're
I,
not.
I've worked in
Yeah,
situations where that's been the case, where like, especially you get like the old dogs, the old guard, the old crew, where they're very used to the process. They're very used to like the old school way of doing things, and it's
hmm,
very hard to get them to transfer and go to a new way, a new piece of software, a new something to do.
right,
So it's almost like you have to, before you even embark on this quest, you have to like train them up, or you have to get them in a position where they would
right,
be open to changing the
right.
way that they do things.
We found success in delivering small little wins along the way.
Yeah,
So instead of like overhauling, right, and coming in and saying, hey, team, we're doing this now, it's, hey group, we're going to do this little thing now, and oh, look how cool this is, and hey, check this out a month later, like look at how, hey, and
yeah. Tell your friends in the other departments
yeah,
how much easier it is to use that
right,
than the other way was.
because there's part of human nature in there. People don't like change, right?
Yeah,
People, no matter how good the change is, it's always, like you said, like people like to be in their own, they've got their own process to things. But
hmm
that's the thing, if you've got 9 people all in a department who just love to do their own thing, there's 9 different ways a thing is done.
and you might get different output
Yeah,
from each one
and
of
you've
those
got
those
duplicated
things.
efforts at some point.
And then what happens when you have to hire a 10th person or
Yeah,
rehire the ninth person? Like
who
who,
trains
yeah, who
them?
trains the
Who?
person? What's the process?
Yeah,
They're going to get confused when they have to go and ask
yep,
8 different people who do it 8 different ways how to do it. I've been in that situation before, and it's
yeah,
terrible.
sure,
It's just the worst for a new hire to not get
yep,
the same answer from every person that they
right,
go to that's supposed to be like an expert on the things that they're asking questions about.
right. So
Gross.
learning culture is another big one, right? Does your company business, support a learning culture? Most do. Human nature, people like to learn, right? And a lot of companies have training budgets,
Yeah.
right? So learning is a big deal, and businesses often will encourage people to learn or continue education, or sometimes offset tuition, right? So there's typically always learning involved there, right?
Yeah.
Because with software or implementing a new process, there's learning involved there, right? And there's going to be training material created. So people are going to need to learn a slightly new way
Yeah.
of doing something, and you just want to hope that you've got some culture of learning in there. Um, and then employee engagement, which you brought up a little bit ago, it's about having champions within the business who are going to just run with it and say, "Hey, great! This is wonderful. Look at this new cool way I found in the new software to do ABC, hey Jennifer, check this out,
Yeah,
right?
as one of those types of employees before, like nothing made me more uh wanting to like stay with the company and feel important than when I was able to
Yeah.
like be one of those champions, like to learn the new things and to shout it from the rooftops and that sort of thing. Like it made me feel like I wasn't just like a grunt on the front lines, just
Yeah.
like doing what was told of me. Like I don't know, we're kind of getting off topic with that, but this is a real great way to keep your employees in
Yeah.
like loyal, not just loyal, but like happy, is to make them like
Mm-hmm.
feel like they're making decisions or part of the decision making process of the company.
Right. Yeah. Having a reward system is another item that we're as part of our notes here, and that reward system is helping. Right. It's
Yeah,
just like any app would have a retention hook inside of it for keeping people and keeping people in the app after they've downloaded it. The same thing about within a company, whether the company is an internal tool or an external tool. If you've got employees that are kind of championing it, and
yeah,
you've got some employees who are kind of just like running with it, like in a way rewarding them with recognition, obviously, other
yeah. The company I worked for before my last one, they had a really good system where their managers were able to give points to their employees, like reward points.
Mm,
And these reward points could be redeemed for like on a portal for prizes or gift cards or whatever the
yeah,
case may be. Right.
nice.
So like not only if they're just doing a good job, but if they contribute significantly to this new
Mm-hmm.
software thing and like they get other people on board with it, you give them some points, they can get a gift card, and like suddenly you're kind of like paying people extra
Yeah,
as your reward to do the thing that you need done with your new software project.
right,
So that was
right.
I bought a new
That's cool.
monitor with one of those before. It was great.
Sweet.
Yeah. I would just like save them through the year, and then I'd have like $250 in Amazon gift cards
Oh,
just like
nice.
chilling there, and I just cash them all out, go to Amazon, buy something, and then lie about it to my wife later.
Truth comes out.
Yeah, sure, I could have done something to help our household, but I got this monitor.
Yeah. Oh, look at this I got from work today. It's kind of weird. All right, let me hook it up.
I love you, Sarah. Don't divorce me. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Leadership support's a big one, obviously. Either top tier or people making the decisions within the company, right? If they're supporting this decision to embark on this software project or hiring a software development company, that's obviously going to be hugely important.
Or just encouraging all the things that we had talked about before, because like nothing good happens in a company if your leaders aren't supporting those initiatives. Like if they all don't have buy-in, like you're going to get certain pockets of your company just not buying into the thing because one of your leaders didn't champion it.
Right. Or if one of your leaders is like a direct, no, I wish we would have never gone down this route. Oh,
talk about a way to like ruin a department.
Yeah.
It's just
right.
Don't hire those people. Like you would know.
Sometimes those people are at the top of the company, and
or the founders, or
the founders,
like the unfirables, the unlet goables.
Yep.
Yeah.
So point number 5, right? Do you have a plan to manage change and train employees to use the new software? We've talked about that a little bit because some of these kind of intertwine, but really, if this is going to be kind of an internal tool at a company, not necessarily like an entrepreneur launching an app, more or less if you've got a staff of people, a workforce, what have you, do you have a plan to manage change?
Yeah.
Because people are, like we just talked about, people are going to be a little susceptible to change.
It could even be for a customer app too, because I mean, certainly there are companies out there that are going to ask a software development company to build an app that they sell to customers.
Sure.
And so not only do you have to train your customers how to do it, you need to train your sales team how to use it and sell it to those people. You have to train a customer support team how to troubleshoot and deal with questions that come from those customers. So it's like there are so many different buckets of training that you have to plan on doing, and any change that's made during the process of building the software after the software is already built is just another piece of the training plan that you have to implement. So having that up front is going to save you a lot of headache.
Right. So managing resistance, we talked about that a little bit. And then leadership engagement, how's the leadership going to be involved? right? How often are they going to be checking in on the project? How often are they going to be ducking in, giving recognition, pushing the team, giving momentum to the team, right? And then you think about success metrics. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but how are you going to measure success when it comes to change management? How are you going to measure success? Imagine doing a survey at the very beginning of rollout, right? How good do you understand the software? How much do you like you? How good do you like using the software? And then 6 months later, running that same survey and then really analyzing the results and getting people's feedback.
Yeah. And then getting a little meta with it and thinking about, are there additional KPIs that I have now discovered that maybe we want to implement into those questionnaires and those tests?
Absolutely.
Because obviously if things are changing, KPIs got to change or must change. With
they should be.
Yeah.
Yep. Feedback channels. How are you addressing people's feedback? Is there a barrier between you and them? Is there an open door policy, anonymous, submit feedback anytime you want? How are you handling that? We've seen pretty good success with an open door policy.
Yeah.
Right? Give us your true, because especially if in the situation you brought up before where it's a company that hired a software company to build an app that they go sell to their customer, they've got to train their employees on it. There's a lot of people in that circle of influence. But are you getting feedback from your employees so your employees know where to go to give feedback? Do they know that they can give feedback? Do they know the level of detail that the feedback they can be given without fear of backlash?
Yeah.
Right.
You get those anonymous employee surveys sometimes. You don't want to answer them because you're afraid that it's not quite like you don't really know that it's anonymous.
You got the email, you click the link in the email, you're sent to a web address.
Yeah, am I sure that
tracked?
Yeah, because I'm doing this from my computer, my employee computer. They know my IP address. They know all this stuff. So, and another reason to make it not anonymous is if somebody gives you really, really good feedback, you probably want to go back to that employee for feedback in the future. They probably have some ideas that might help you out, or even at the very least, like you can get more information out of them about the feedback item that they did give you. You're not going to get that with an anonymous survey. Yep.
Amazon Prime?
I do. I have it.
Prime came from feedback from a junior developer at Amazon.
I heard that. Like just some guy, he randomly, hey, what if we do this? And you're like, let me talk to my managers about it. I hope he got so much money for coming up with that idea, but it's corporate America's Prime.
Yep. They spent months coming up with every possible objection that someone would have for joining Amazon Prime, and they were able to solve every single one of those objections. So they went forward with building it.
Wow. Came
from feedback from someone in the company. Crazy.
And it wasn't anonymous, so they probably went back to him and yeah.
Communication plan, we talked about that. That's kind of coinciding with the feedback channels, right? Just making sure there's communication plan. Not only letting people know that they can give feedback, where to go to give feedback, but once feedback has been given, how are you communicating back? Thank you for giving feedback. Here's some of the things we've heard. Here's the changes you're going to see over the next 3 months, or in the next 8 sprints, or in PI 3, or whatever it is it's going to be.
Nothing's worse than one-sided communication.
Oh man,
you give feedback and you get nothing in return. No return on it.
Right. So good communication plan can go a long way. We've got a whole podcast episode about how to effectively communicate.
Yeah, I think that was like 2 episodes ago.
Yeah,
3 episodes ago.
So would that be the Moonello Show /8?
Probably. Yeah, since we don't know for sure, you should probably just go check them all out and find it.
That's funny.
Professionals.
Yep. So we got, I think, 2 more points to cover here. So we're kind of sort of in a way wrapping up. So we got importance of organizational alignment and readiness. So that's point number 6. Just making sure that your organization is really aligned. Now, depending on if you're a much smaller company, you're likely aligned. It's time to go. But just making sure that big companies come with big departments, come from big budgets, that have initiatives and KPIs that they need to solve for. So making sure that if one arm of the business is pushing forward with some type of software, that all the other arms of the business aren't left in the wayside, that they're somehow in a way benefiting from, what's going on over here, or they've got input to what's going on over here. Just making sure that there's alignment and readiness all across the board, because you might even pluck resources from these
Yeah.
other arms of the business. We talked about the technical resources.
Certainly you do, to get feedback or to get people on the front line into like the initial conversations about the apps that you're
Yeah.
building, right? Like you
Yeah.
need to pull them from interacting with customers so that they can talk about their experience
Yeah.
with customers and how it might affect this app that you're building.
Right.
And on top of that, like obviously you don't want to kick off this huge project when it's the busiest time of the year for your sales, right? So like think
Yeah.
about if you're a retailer, big box retailer or something, you probably don't want to do this around like Black Friday, Christmas time, because
Yeah.
you're going to have like a huge chunk of your business just focused and in on sales and making sure that
Yeah.
all the products are in your store. And yeah, just do it during slow times, or at least make sure that all of your departments are ready to do the push, the start.
Right. Unless you did this last year during Black Friday and Christmas, and you did it more of like a staging type, go through the motions, and then now this year you're going to roll it out and you're going to be ready, and everyone's kind of already trained and ready to go. But
Right.
But yeah, you certainly don't.
I've been in situations where projects have started around that time while I was in retail, and it's just
any projects on anything,
Yeah,
even if they're not e-commerce,
they
people are just
usually-
busy during that time of year.
right. And then also everybody's taking Christmas break off. If you're not in the sales team, you're taking your breaks during that time, and it just like you can get to a point where your project has just stopped working for a month and a half, 2-3 months, because you've picked a bad time. And yikes.
Stakeholder buy-in. So we brought up earlier, right? You want to have, leadership alignment and making sure you're getting support from the leadership team and getting stakeholder buy-in. Those that might be a little opposed to the project, making sure that you've heard their concerns, you're addressing their concerns. Their concerns are certainly warranted.
Just fire them. Get rid of them.
Rewrite the articles of organization for the business.
At will employment. Let's go.
That's funny. Team readiness, right? Is your team ready to go? Or is your team, like Jason just brought up, are they just focused on their roles and responsibilities for the next 2.5 months, because sales is important? And
do they know that this is even coming?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, you can imagine some like 2-3 tiers down from the organizational chain, not even knowing that something like this is in the works, and then all of a sudden they're being told that their process has to change.
Yeah.
Like,
man.
Yikes. That's I'm going to say yikes a lot in this episode. I'm sorry.
Oh, yikes.
Just, I've been in those situations where it's just, man, it's just a pitfall to fall into, to not communicate everything effectively, and to not make sure that everybody knows what's going on, which is the same thing, but also to just make sure that everything is just ready to go. And
organizational agility, right? We talked about it earlier. If you're gonna, planning for your contingency plan within your budget, if something were to come up, right, is your organization set up to, really pivot or change, even on a dime sometimes, as you're cranking through a project. You've aligned your whole sprint up with work, and you've got 3 months of work that everybody is just ready to go and start cranking on, and all of a sudden in month 1.5, you've got leadership shakeup, or you've got the company acquired a whole nother company, and the company that they acquired now becomes more important of a sales driver for the whole project. Now all of a sudden we got to jump back to sprint planning, and can everybody kind of stop what they're doing and kind of redo sprint planning in a way, or is there going to be upheaval and boxing gloves that get pulled out of the closet, right?
All, by the way, while fearing that your jobs are secure, because
all
of those merger things come along with those complications.
And multiple email addresses.
So I mean, that's another thing to consider too. Like if you're planning really big organizational changes within your organization, while you're also planning a huge software project, maybe think about how those things are going to intertwine with each other.
Right. So we're here at the last piece, point 7. If you've made it here, We've got some good stuff for you.
I've made it.
You've made it. You're here. I'm here.
Still here, still awake.
Yep. If you're there, please raise your hand. Tips and resources to help assess readiness, right? To know, are you ready? Is your business ready? These are some tips and resources we've come up with to make sure that you have to work through to really check the box that says, yes, we're ready.
Yeah.
Everybody should know what a SWOT analysis is.
I don't.
You don't?
No, I've
Strengths,
actually never heard of it.
strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Oh, okay.
So it's a chart. You whiteboard or Excel sheet or write down on a piece of paper, and you identify what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and in what you're about to embark on. And it's just like a brain dump of everything you can possibly think of. And at the end of it, you should be able to be, okay, this looks good. Like, our strengths are good, right? Yeah, there's some threats. Yeah, there's some weaknesses, but here's some really good opportunities, right? And you're going to uncover some things about either your business or the software or your competitors on whether or not this is a good idea.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to, like, if your strengths and your opportunities columns or boxes are chunky,
Yep.
have really full, like you're onto
Yep.
a good thing. But if your weaknesses and your threats are bigger, then yikes, maybe that's not such a good thing. And I guess you could also compare like just strengths and weaknesses and just threats and opportunities. And yeah, I can see how an analysis of that would be pretty helpful.
Absolutely. Yep. Stakeholder engagement, so important that everybody's on board from bottom to top, top to bottom, left to right.
I think we've said that many times, but that's just how important it is to have that buy-in.
Yep. Gap analysis, right? So you can understand, if you were to embark on this, how far away are the skills in your team or your staff on where you need to go and where you are today. Maybe you're there, so hey, let's go, right? Or maybe there's some things that your team, like if your team has just been pumping out work using Google Sheets or using some other way of driving processes home, and all of a sudden you implement, hey, we're no longer going to use Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, we're going to use this software tool. Do they really need to be trained on software at that point? Probably not. Or could their skills be there?
Or just figure it out.
Right. Or they will be, yeah.
Yeah.
Risk assessment, right? If you were to invest into this thing and build it and get it out there, do you really see any risks for your business at all or your company? If there are, certainly write them down. Those are really good to know. Budget planning, we talked about that, right? So get out a sheet of paper, or Excel sheet, get out, start writing down,
put numbers to it.
Even if they're monopoly money for a period of time, it's okay. At least get it in there and start to think about it. It's needed and it's there. Pilot projects, that's another good tip. So if you're looking to embark on something, you can always start small and just start moving it around, maybe launching it, maybe not, maybe deploying it to a staging area, maybe having some employees playing with it, getting some feedback there. Small wins along the way, right? Like we talked about before, just small little pilot things could really go a long way. And then organizational culture assessment, really sitting back. If you're a large company, sit back in a boardroom, right? And whiteboard, roll up the sleeves, write down a piece of paper. Does our company support, culture? Do we have some type of, anything within our business from a human resources standpoint that we need to think about, that we need to implement before we go down this path, right?
And if you don't, you make a roadmap for how to get to that point.
Yep. So good tips. And then resources, just doing a readiness assessment, right? So there's tools out there. I think each state has their own tools on their own websites. We're in the state of Michigan. I know Michigan.gov has their LARA, LARA section of their website that has a lot of good tools. Reaching out to a professional consultant, Moonello, excuse me.
I thought he was really coughing. I'm like, oh man, you all right? No,
I've gotten good at sliding that in there. A conversation with a consultant can really go a long way.
And it doesn't even have to be like a
formal
commitment or anything. It's just
pick up the
sometimes
phone.
They might be for free too. So just like call somebody, and they might just try to give you half the kitchen sink in hopes that information will lead to a lead in a sale. So call none of them but us.
None of them but us. Yeah. Moonello.com, right?
Yeah. Numbers at the bottom in the footer. I think there's a contact button somewhere at the top.
Yeah.
I sure hope there is.
Yeah. Oh, there is.
Okay, great. Click, click, click.
industry webinars and workshops, right? There's nothing to be said that you can't join a workshop or come in person to a workshop, or, I do this all the time. Jump on YouTube, put in a keyword of something you want to learn, and kind of kick back for 20, 30 minutes if you're on the Peloton or a treadmill or
Yeah.
whatever, and just kind of learn about a topic real quick. That's usually pretty good. Books, online courses, we've all heard that before.
What's a book?
Book. Yeah, it's the electronic thing you download on your computer and flip
Oh,
through.
right. Okay. All right. I don't use those. I just use web pages.
And networking groups. If you're part of any type of networking group, right, you can just spark up a conversation about this.
Facebook is pretty good for that. There's a lot of that's where a large chunk of those types of groups can be.
Yep.
Like the public ones. Obviously, there are private ones that you can find on, there's Slack channels and Discords and stuff like that you can find. But
I haven't joined Facebook groups until recently, and I've been finding like really good value in some Facebook groups. A lot of people ask a lot of good, or post a lot of good information, or ask a lot of really good information in these Facebook groups. I've learned quite a bit in just random stuff.
Most of the groups I'm in are in Discord, and I find it kind of hard to follow sometimes, because it's like, it's not divided into posts. It's almost like a chat feed,
a single feed,
single feed, right? So it's really hard to like keep up on the different conversations that are going on. But you can do threads and stuff like that, but it's a little complicated. But Facebook, like, you can make a post and then everybody just comments on that on that post or whatever. So it's much easier to see what the conversation is about and then just go through it.
Right. All right. So that is what we're calling the 7 things to do or to know before you embark on a software development project or hire a software development company to come in and crank on it for you. So we hope we've delivered on that. We hope you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, all of those things.
And tune in next time.
Take it easy.